From Stephen King, the master of suspense, comes his all-time bestseller.
Containment breach! We've had a major containment breach! Use the manual gate override, Cassius! Do it now! Cassius! You have to close the gate!
A deadly virus released by a government mistake. A frantic military willing to stop at nothing to cover up the terrible truth.
The so-called super flu does not exist.
What did you do? What did you people do?
As the plague sweeps out of control, a nation erupts, society crumbles, the end is here.
The monster's here! The darkman's here!
Now, all that remains, the demon, the prophet, and those chosen to survive. Drawn by dreams of an old woman,
Be coming along to see me, won't you, Larry?
the chosen ones stream to Colorado to find their dreams are real.
Help us to be true, dear Lord. Help us to stand.
In Las Vegas, an army of darkness assembles, controlled by dreams of their leader, Randall Flagg.
Go for it.
Do it, Harold, do it! Time to make your stand.
The ultimate stand against the forces of evil. Molly Ringwald, Rob Lowe, Laura San Giacomo, Gary Sinise, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ruby Dee, and Jamie Sheridan. Stephen King's The Stand.
Stephen King was born in September 21 in 1947. Is an American author of contemporary horror, supernatural fiction, suspense, science fiction, and fantasy. His books have sold more than 350 million copies, many of which have been adapted into feature films, miniseries, television shows, and comic books. King has published 54 novels, including 7 under the pen name Richard Bachman, and 6 non-fiction books. He has written nearly 200 short stories, most of which have been collected in book collections. His principal notable works are Carrie, The Shining, The Stand, Misery, The Dark Tower, Under the Dawn, Rita Hayworth, and Shawshank Redemption.
Nick was riding his bike and he ran into Tom after he took Tom with him, and they went to God's country. After they survived a tornado and Tom got sick for eating too many apples. And Nick met Juliet at the drugstore and they had sex, but Nick slapped her. And Julia ran away, and then they met Ralph Brenner. Laurie's nightmares and he walked by the road. Also, he found a bike and he got to the East Coast and he saw the ocean. He was attacked and Larry, Nadine and Joe met. They playing the guitar at the beach and Larry and Nadine reached on quiet. Larry explored the bar and he dreamed they met Lucy Swan and they talk and realized they had the same dream. The events that happened in this chapter were Frank Goldsmith's diary, unfriendings and Harold's argument, after caravans wait around a cure, and men and women's fight. After Franny got shot by a man he mistook, women were shot. People got shot and died. They went to a firehouse of the highway over the Indiana state, and they all dreamed about a boogeyman. After Women's Day with pills. The principal events in this chapter were importance of God in Mother Abigail's situation, and Abigail's family comes to Nebraska as freed slaves. Finally, Nick and his group arrived to Mother Abigail's house after the other group, Frank's group, had to deal with a trouble, and they talk about their dreams. A 22-year-old deaf mute drifter originally from Caslin, Nebraska, Andros eventually recovers and begins his journey to Hemingford home, Nebraska. Along the way, he meets Cullen and later Brenner, June, Gina, Dick, and Olivia Walker. The group becomes a surrogate family to him. Andros leads the growing band of survivors to both Nebraska and Mother Abigail, who guides them into Boulder. A man initially thought to be his mid-20s to mid-30s suffers from mild to moderate mental retardation. Andros encounters him while cycling from Arkansas to Nebraska through Oklahoma. After, Andros learns that Colin remembers his father's return from the Korean War. He realizes that Colin must be much older, perhaps in his 40s. The two bond closely, despite the fact that Andros cannot speak and Colin cannot read Andros' notes. She is an unstable sex-crazed teenager who lived through the pandemic. Laurie has sexual intercourse with Andros in the deserted store where they met and then attempts to convince Andros to leave Colin behind. An amiable Midwest farmer and United States Army veteran meets Andros and Colin as their paths cross on a highway between Oklahoma and Nebraska. Together they form the first party to find Mother Abigail. Despite a lack of formal education, Brennan possesses a great deal with common sense and is very skilled with tools and machines. He is a cocky young singer, a composer who at the beginning of the novel is starting to achieve significant success with his debut single "Baby, Can You Do Your Man?" She is a teacher at a private school in New Hampshire. Cross finds an emotionally damaged young boy whom she calls Joe. Joe has regressed to a savage state of mind, but trusts Cross and remains with her. Cross meets Underwood when Joe finds him sleeping. Joe is working up the courage to kill the sleeping Underwood, but Cross prevents the potential murder. The survivors have dreams of her telling them to come to her in Nebraska. She is 180 years old and lives in a farmhouse in Hemingford Home in Nebraska. The first survivors, encouraged by Underwood's party, 24 years old New Hampshire housewife, Lucy Swan. The character becomes romantically involved with Underwood, but he feels a strong attraction to Cross. Lauder is 16 years old and lives in Maine at the beginning of the novel. He is the younger brother of Wolfsmith's best friend, Emmy Lauder, and is a social outcast at his local high school.
First one is Oklahoma, that is takes part in the beginning of the story, and it's a city completely devastated and isolated where Nick Andrews met Tom Cullen. So I remember one of the most important phrases that Nick told was, "Great, he can read and I can talk." That was because the communication was important in that period, because it was not like no, a lot of people were not there, sorry, and it's possible in Oklahoma. So in Kansas City, we've got there they meet Julie, Nick Andrews, and Tom Cullen. They meet Julie Lowry, the drugstore's owner of the city. She wants to follow them, but she couldn't because of her sense of humor. That was a little chapter of contradictions about the humor also, because it was possible Tom Cullen was a retarded person. So for that reason, Nick Andrews want that Julie went with them. Sorry. So then they catch a red truck which tried to tackle them. They thought it was Julie who tried to kill them, but it wasn't. In this way, they meet Ralph Bretner, another character in that chapter, possible. But I think the first chapter was centered in two characters were Nick Andrews and Tom Cullen. So that was the first chapter. So then the next place was in the second chapter. The next place was New England. Possibly we can talk about Maine and Vermont, both in New England. So in the first one, part of the second chapter was Maine, that Larry Underwood appeared and went to the sea, where was attacked by Joe, a man who has scared, thinking Larry were a non-human person. Thus, Larry knew Nadine, who never had known other people than Joe, the little boy. So they were near the end of the world. Possible it's like a beach, like a a CA possible, and that was like they were finding people, more exactly her sister possible. So in Vermont, when they traveled to Vermont, Larry, Nadine, and Joe met Lucy Swan. That was possible the best friend, or known as by Nadine, who days before had gotten nightmares with a man who chasing her, possibly because the corn had been cursed. Also, when Larry, when he went to Beck, also feels the same that Nadine feels, that Nadine felt. Sorry, that was something like someone tried to carry him away. That was happened in the second chapter in the Stand book. So I mentioned the third chapter that was in the Ohio's place in USA. So in Ohio, that's based on Stu, who wanted to go to Holland Home, or also named Hometown, to meet with Mother Abigail, who lived in a file of corn. Okay, in this chapter, happened a lot of success. In way to find Mother Abigail, they found a group of people who blocked the path, blocked the way, and that occurs like a battle to live, where every one of them, of the bad group, possible the evil group, die. So Stu and his partners keep the road and found some friends who were hostage of the killers group, whose names were Diana Jurgens, Susan Stern, and Patty Kruger, and Shirley Hamlet. This last one woman was an old age woman. And okay, I also knew Franny, who was the Stu crush, and in that chapter were pregnant. Were pregnant by, I think was Stu, I don't remember really. So that's the third chapter, and then I'm gonna talk about the fourth chapter, remembering that we're studying the settings. So the fourth chapter was in Nebraska. That was when a baby born. They were in a cottage in the middle of a camp, and then appears Mother Abigail, and she didn't know who was she possible suffer. And Mother Abigail possible suffer Alzheimer, and then appeared some zombies in the middle of the corn, killed us. So finally, she's visited by Tom Cullen and Nick and the people of the Captor's Back. So this is I'm talking about the Stu and Patty, Susan, Diana, some secondary characters, possible like Franny, something like that. But I think the most important in that chapter were Tom Cullen and Nick, that they try to help her to found. Okay, but they were there because of the. Okay, continuing with that, Tom Cullen and Nick were trying to find information about the Dark Lord, called the Dark Lord, that appear in the first chapter, like a cloud in the sky. And that was remembering the first chapter when they were in a cottage. and the cottage was divested by that phenomenon. And yeah, in the fourth chapter, remember, is remembering for the Dark Lord, seeking or trying to find him, and Mother Abigail knows him. And in the book, it's quite possible that we didn't know if Mother Abigail knows him, because it's not a complete book. Possible it's like different chapters, different. Okay, and the last chapter is quite similar to the fourth. So this is to finish the idea of all characters were captured or get information about the Dark Man. The last chapter begins with Mother Abigail, Nick, and Tom Cullen sharing the dinner. So due to Nick had dreamed about her and the place they were in that moment, Nick and Mother Abigail have to go Boulder, Colorado. So Nick had dreamed with Mother Abigail and the place where she lived, so in the middle of a corn or things like that, to search to find the Dark Lord. And then she talked about to go to Boulder, Colorado. So that's possible a little plot of the fifth chapter. So they went to the Boulder, Colorado, and then in the book after Mother Abigail and Nick went to Boulder, Colorado, in the book appears something like that. That is, the story continues in the Stand, Hard Cases. So that's not the final of the book, but for me it's one of the most important. That was one of the books in English that I have read, taking into account that I have not reading a lot of English books. So, but that's as a motivation to read a book in English. So that's all.